Namaste, people. Welcome to the show Get That Green. I'm your host, Pooja Arve. This podcast focuses on green business ideas, sustainable innovations. Each episode will have story of such change makers who are working towards environmental betterment. Today, we have Igwebike Ijeoma, who is the CEO of Enviropreneur, Schrodinger Greentech, also board member of Climate Strategies, and as well as the country representative for Nigeria and a member of the World Council for Renewable Energies Committee of Chairs. Welcome to the show, Igwebike.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you very much. And well done for the good job you are doing.
That's so sweet of you. Thank you so much. Say, like, when you talk about sustainability or climate change, what is that one thing which strikes your mind when you think about solving these problems?
Yes, thank you, Pooja. The one thing which strikes,
Mm-hmm.
which is also what I have taken to promote, is actually the concept of enviropreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
Enviropreneurship, not entrepreneurship, enviropreneurship. So
Yeah.
I see myself as an enviropreneur because as an enviropreneur, I promote products, technologies, programs, policies, initiatives, projects that are climate compatible and environmentally responsible. So I believe strongly that we would have avoided, it would have been, the present climate change and environmental degradation is actually avoidable if we had incorporated, if we had embraced enviropreneurship. So, because enviropreneurship considers the environment, environmental impact of whatever it is, every economic activity. So, if it's not beneficial to the environment, if it's harmful to the environment, we don't promote it. So, that's what strikes me because if we all were enviropreneurs, if we had adopted the concept of enviropreneurship in the last 100 years, we would not be talking about climate change and environmental degradation now.
I think that's a great way of, saying and representing the changes in a very, how to say, brief way. Because if you compare, when we say the climate change, global warming, we always tend to measure it from pre-industrial era and to compare to the present day, which is after the industrial revolution, right? So if we can see, as you basically mentioned the right term, which is if at all we had considered the environmental aspects of it when we were building industries and any businesses out of it, I think today we won't be in a situation to talk and address these issues in the first place. I totally agree on that. And also, I think there is a learning curve in each and everything, and every aspect of life is about how do we improve and how do we rectify and how do we recalibrate ourselves to enhance the capacities not only of the industries and the manufacturing facilities, but as well as in terms of the quality of the environment where we are living in and maintaining that eco-friend balance in the nature. Okay.
Yes, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you because with enviropreneurship, what we're actually influencing is actually the shift, the transition from the wasteful, inefficient, linear economic model
Yeah.
to the efficient, secular economic model, right? That
Yeah.
carries everybody along. So it's inclusive. It has to be inclusive. It has to be secular. It has to be efficient. So that's because the linear economic model of take, make, waste, right, as
Mm-hmm.
against what we reimagine, reuse, reduce,
Recycle. Yes.
recycle.
Yeah.
So you see, these are two different concepts. So if we had embraced this in the last 100 years, maybe we would not be, we would not be talking about climate change and uh, global warming, right? Because this phase of the warming is actually caused by economic activities.
Since you mentioned that linear economy model, can we also talk about circularity is booming nowadays? In every industry, it is much needed, and I don't think so we have any alternative way of going about. If you ask me why, I think the major reason would be the resource availability, right? The resources are so scarce nowadays, all the minerals, materials, and let's say wood and all the natural resources which we get for the manufacturing processes, it's not infinitely available given the population which we have now. So how do you see this as an opportunity in terms of circularity and in terms of circular economy with this?
Yes, secularity and inclusive circular economy that is emerging, that is getting more and more popular, creates a lot of opportunities. It creates opportunities for resource efficiency. It creates opportunity for the creation of new markets. It creates opportunities for the generation of decent green jobs. It creates opportunity for long-term commercial profitability for enterprises, and creates opportunity for long-term corporate sustainability as well. So it's, the manifold benefits cannot be overemphasized. And that's why we need governments in Africa to really prioritize the subnational governments, which is actually where a lot of these ideas, where a lot of these whole concepts can be piloted, because this is what we're also, pushing. This is what we're also highlighting, and what we have seen from the experience we've got with our in the line of doing our job. And that is the too much attention is on the national governments, and then little attention on the subnational government and local government. So we are trying to disaggregate this attention and then focus a whole lot more on the subnational government, because it's easier. A subnational government is a microcosm of a national government. So most of the things you can achieve with a national government, you can also achieve it with a subnational government. But the advantage of working with a subnational government or piloting with a subnational government is that you have less bureaucracy, compared to the national government. So yes, the opportunities are manifold, and then these things are emerging. We need frameworks, policy frameworks, regulatory frameworks to be able to ramp up, these emerging concepts, and then embrace them and run with them.
I think yes, it was an holistic way to approach the circularity part of it. Moving on, Igwebike, if we have to see, there are so many agreements, and let's say for example Paris Agreement, and then we also have COP, series of COP sequences going on. So being a part of it, from COP 21, 26, and as well as 27, what is your take, and what were your learnings from this attending this event, and how do you look at it?
Yes, it's a mixed feeling, right? It's a mixed feeling, and at one end is a feeling of disappointment and feeling of, sometimes sadness and anger. At the other end, it's a feeling of hope. Having the global community come together gives the hope that, even though it's taking a lot of time, but gives the hope of the global, for us to be able to have muster the global harmony and solidarity, to be able to focus on a global problem, on a shared problem. So I feel sad and disappointed because of the hypocrisy of the global north, hypocrisy of the industrialized nations who actually caused these problems. The difference between what they say and what they do, it's really, really the biggest impediment, slowing down climate action, slowing down energy transition, and slowing down the movement from linear economy to circular economy. So of course they say all the fine words and all the fine things and all the right things and then hit the right notes, but when they leave the COP grounds, and after people must have, applauded them and commended them, they go back to their countries and start acting against, in the opposite direction of what they preached and advocated at the COP. So that's makes it, burdensome for me in terms of managing the feeling of, what I've experienced and what I've learned from those engagements. I mean, it still gives us hope.
Yeah.
It gives us hope that the global community can come together despite political differences, despite ongoing
geopolitical
geopolitical
differences. Yeah.
Differences and contestations. That at least we can find we can have the common sense to sit down to discuss common issues of common concern. But what is what they say at that, and then what they do. That's where we need to close the gap, and a lot of responsibility is on the industrial nations, is on the global north, for them to provide the leadership, in words and deed, matching their words, with action, commensurate action. So that's it. It presents an opportunity to talk. It presents an opportunity to engage. It presents an opportunity. The COP platform presents an opportunity to engage, to inspire, to facilitate, and to mobilize. So mobilize like-minded, build alliances, right? Mobilize like-minded entities, towards a defined goal. So that's it for me. The civil society, the civil society organizations need to ramp up the pressure. They need to take the pressure higher. It's really,
I think it's
an
already
ongoing
building up, right?
Yes, it's ongoing, because two things. If you look at the quantum of subsidies going into fossil fuel, and the almost lack of incentive, or the same subsidies low subsidy going into renewable energy, so you see that what they say and what they do, they are quite different. And again, the pledges they made in terms of climate finance that comes to African countries and that comes to the global south from the global north, they've consistently missed the target of what they pledged, that they are going to contribute. So it's a feeling of sadness and disappointment, but for us to still have the platform gives hope that sooner than later, common sense will prevail.
And I think we should always look at the brighter side and see how well we can enhance and make, efficient and innovative solutions to address this. And also, I think it is very much needed in the global platform level, wherein you exchange your ideas, your technologies per se, and as well as to have an approach which is suitable for the regional wise, solving the problems, and also having a perspective on how to approach the problem. That is a big change maker and the difference, and which increases the time which is needed to enhance the efficiency rate of any problem solving is good in this way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
that's
agree with
great
you.
then. Yeah. You are saying?
I say I agree with you.
Yes. So let's move on. So if you have to, tell us few key factors being in part of this African Union Commission, and also how the African Adaptation Initiative is going on, can you let us understand to the people who don't know, to whom this is a new word or a concept, let's say?
Okay. The African Adaptation Initiative is actually the baby of the African Union, who, prior to the COP21, the adoption of the Paris Agreement, thought it wise for African countries to articulate what it takes for transnational adaptation to build a framework to drive transnational climate change adaptation. You will know, of course, you know that with the environment and the climate, there are no boundaries, right? So, and that the boundaries of countries do not they are inconsequential when it comes to the environment. So, the environmental challenges in the Sahel, it cuts across multiple countries. You know, where you have a lot of droughts and deforestation and desert encroachment and all of that. So, it's that's really what gave the idea or gave the impetus for the African Union to reach out to the African Group of Climate Change Negotiators and the African Ministerial Council on Environment, for them to mobilize, seek out experts who will design an African-led, African experts who will design a framework that would help Africa to deal with adaptation. So the African Adaptation Initiative became, when it was developed, it became one of the frameworks with which the African Union engaged the global community in Paris during the COP21, where the Paris Agreement was adopted. So it became one of the two frameworks, the other one being the African Renewable Energy Initiative, which deals with the mitigation and renewable energy aspect of this whole conversation. So I participated in designing the technical report and in designing it was the technical report which actually recommended the structure of the African Adaptation Initiative. So I am happy that legacy is still on, and they are working with global bodies and international organizations and multilateral agencies, to support their the adaptation component of their work. So they mobilize resources.
Much needed, right?
Yes, yes. So that's a legacy, and I'm happy that they are, working in tandem with the mandates that they were given, to see how they can strengthen adaptation and resilience building in Africa, in African countries.
Then, Igwebike, can you also tell us, since you mentioned that renewable initiative as well in Africa?
Africa Renewable Energy Initiative.
Yeah,
AREI.
yes, exactly. So, if you have to tell us few pointers, like is it in perspective towards the regulations, how it is, created, and also in terms of policy, what are the few things which one has to take note of from these technical reports for any business or any manufacturer who is present in Africa? How do they keep them braced or prepared for this initiative and the coming regulations in terms with that?
So the initiatives actually, they provide technical support, they provide technical assistance, and they also, help countries develop their renewable energy frameworks or the climate adaptation frameworks, and then they support pilot projects, implementation of pilots, and of course contribute and inspire regulation and policies around renewable energy and adaptation. So they facilitate, they mobilize expertise and resources as well to support African countries who may need their assistance, or who they think that they can offer intervention. So there are initiatives that are really geared towards firing up stakeholders and also bringing stakeholders together to deliver on signature projects that have to do with adaptation or mitigation. So that's really what those initiatives. That's what the main purpose that they serve.
Okay, got it. So this all the initiatives and the business, processing will finally be leading to one path, which is finance. And I think it is the driving factor in all these projects, let's say. If we talk about investing, green finance, how do you think that will drive climate strategy?
Yes, finance has always been a problem, both at the local level where projects needs to be implemented, and again, both at the international level where the on the table where these things are negotiated. So, it's finance is key, right? And so the multilateral agencies try to come together to raise resources, but that has always been some kind of supply driven, from the supply point. And that's one of the reasons why we haven't really made a lot of progress, because these resources are not demand driven, right? So they don't respond to, most times they don't respond to the demand, the realities on the ground. So people in New York and in global capitals and in the capitals of North America and Europe sit down and say, oh, we are going to do this in Africa, and then we're going to use this money for that project. So that in itself becomes problematic, because this needs to be bottom up, demand driven, and this has not been efficient. So we are proposing new business models, and that's what we are proposing and promoting now. New business models that, puts the communities, the vulnerable communities, the communities that will host these projects, put them at the center of the business models that, for the implementation of those projects. So people have talked, we've tried public-private partnership as a business model to drive uptake, but that's not enough, because people in the public sector usually bring in their private sector collaborators, their private sector interests. And then because the motivation is actually not to deliver value, most times, it's actually to maybe asset strip or hijack the benefits and all of that. But at the end of the day, the projects are not sustainable, right? So because the communities at some point will start being suspicious of some of these transactions and some of these projects, whether they are going to serve their purpose and serve their interests. And from that suspicion, you now start seeing a lot of friction coming in. So we are advocating for new business model. We are promoting new business model. We're also promoting new policies that will be able to deal protect climate investments or climate investors who seek to make their investment in certain jurisdictions. So, yes, the old business model has not delivered, which is a supply-driven financial intervention, right? So, we need to make it demand-driven. So the projects are built bottom up, and then when it gets up, then the finance is coming to, directly deal with the challenges that we identified at the project development stages. So yes, we need these new business models, both for at the Africa Renewable Energy Initiative and African Adaptation Initiative. Of course, you know that the profile of adaptation is very low in Africa, globally, right? So the finance coming to adaptation.
Sorry to interrupt, pardon. So I have one question which interests me. So if at all, let's say it's low, can you at least give a percentage or any number for us to understand it better? By what percentage is the implementation going on? Or by what
So
percentage?
globally.
Yeah, globally. Like, no, not, this is pertaining to Africa, not global.
No, I'm coming in because you have to track it from a global perspective, right?
Okay.
Then you come to Africa, yeah.
Yeah.
So globally,
Cool then, yes.
we have, globally, we have about 20 to 25% of the whole global climate investments go into adaptation, right?
Okay, okay, okay.
And then the other 75, 80% for mitigation. So you see, part of what we are, the COP platform is also pushing is to see how to ramp up the offtake capacity of adaptation financing. So how can we have adaptation financing at parity with mitigation financing? So that's one of the challenges. Then here in Africa, I think the adaptation resources coming in maybe 10-15%. So it's really less than, maybe it hovers around 10% of what comes in here in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a major problem. That's a major problem, both from a global perspective and from an African perspective. So, and Africa's priority is actually adaptation and not necessarily mitigation, right? So, because we have a lot of rain-fed agriculture here, we have a lot of subsistence smallholder farmers who use less of, who apply little or no technology and who use subsistence, conventional crude method for farming. So their resilience, is quite low. And so, of course, because you have rain-fed agriculture as the main source of, food security here. So when you have climate variability and delayed rainfall and all of that, then that's in itself poses, food insecurity challenges. So, a lot of.
So I think if we address this as in whole, the diversification of the portfolios which goes into this, strategizing the investments for
Yes,
green
we need to
projects,
recalibrate.
and how do we do that?
Not just green projects, adaptation projects.
Adaptation as well. Yes, right.
Yes, that's a priority in Africa and not necessarily mitigation. But if you look at the frameworks, if you look at the policies in Africa, they are mainly at the country level, focused on mitigation. And this is wrong and needs to change.
So then equal amount, or let's say the adaptation should take the bigger percentage is what you're referring to, right?
Yes, because unfortunately, this is not the issue, because if you go and look at the nationally determined contributions of African countries, so you see that it is, biased, biased against adaptation. So it is mitigation, it is higher mitigation and biased against adaptation. So that has to change. That is a major indicator that Africa has lost it. We need to include a lot of, we need to include adaptation components, and make it, raise the profile, and then, develop adaptation projects and be very intentional about getting, the African Development Bank, for instance, and the multilateral agencies to recognize the need to direct and reallocate resources, more resources, urgently towards adaptation in Africa.
Yes, I think we had a very solid discussion around how do we started with, how do we address this from a point of view of regulation point and how the policies are driving it. And then we also saw, like, with respect to Africa, what is that needed, when you also mentioned the few initiatives, which is renewable energy initiatives and green initiatives, adaptations, and how important is it that you allocate major resources and as well as finances both into getting an action out of the adaptation rather than just advocating the changes which has to be made. And we also discussed on, like, what is the relevance of renewable energy today and top down approach of solving the problem and understanding the supply and demand rather than driving it more, and how relevant is it today, as well as to understand what is the percentage needed for any business, or how the helping hand from the government given to small businesses who are willing to make changes for the sake of environment and sustainability goals which they have claimed or pledged to take care of, right? So I think we are at the end of this now. Igwebike, I would like to know few terms from you, which is from your experience, being part of this various initiatives and as well as the forming technical committee and being a board member in Climate Strategies London as well. After seeing all these parameters, what is that, three suggestions you would like to give it away for any person who stays in Africa? Let's say it is not in terms of businesses, it's more like individual point of view. How do you think they can contribute to this, or what do you think is the solution? 3 points.
3 points. Okay, yeah. The three biggest issues are, if the advisory, which is what we also help organizations and international external actors who seek to make investments in this space, or who seek to influence action and behavior and policy and practice, sustainable development policy and climate action, practice. The first thing is to, look at business model, right? The conventional business model has failed, right? So first thing is this: let's look at pay less attention at the national level and begin to pay more attention at the subnational level in Africa. And I think that this new approach would see faster delivery of projects, faster delivery of programs, and a lot more impact of whatever intervention that is being made. The second one is to, of course, seek out, organizations who are already on the ground in the private space, right? And then get them to guide them through some kind of hand-holding advisory, because if they're engaging with new business model, they have a higher rate of success. If they're engaging at the subnational level, they also have a higher rate of success. And the third one is for them to really plan to engage long term, right? Because Africa has its own unique challenges. Africa has its own unique, we have our peculiarities here. The political economy, it's different, as you move around the different countries in the continent. So it demands a lot of patience. People who want to make intervention here would really have to think long term and get the right partners on the ground to engage and guide them through, and then think of new business models, new models of engagement, so those are the three takeaways or that I can say. If I'm in front of an external actor who wants to make impact in Africa, this is what I will say to them.
Yeah, so to summarize it, it was basically to understand the regional local needs and also how well they can venture into the capabilities and finding the opportunities which is relevant for them, and as well as which makes sense to the global level as well, and how well they crack this is where the solution lies, right? So, and thank you so much, Igwebike, for your being kind and giving us this time and taking time to elaborately explain and let us know the parameters which are influencing the situations in Africa currently right now.
Thank you. Looking forward to future programs to contribute to your programs in the future as well.
Yes, this was a brief episode to understand the growing Africa and how well the ESG and circularity parameters are influencing and the global finance and green finance. 3 mantras for sustainable life are reduce, reuse, and recycle. Please share your thoughts, insights, and observations about the episode. I am also on Instagram, where you can follow me at getsetgreen.in for any updates. Comment, share the episode if you liked it. Until next episode, see ya.